All right, Ryan. Thanks for the intro again, as always.
Yeah.
So today we've got from Kalamazoo, uh, we have Harry Phillips, the and marketing development director at the Kalamazoo State Theatre, an icon in Kalamazoo for getting close to 100 years, I think,
Yeah.
Yeah,
right, Harry?
yeah, yeah. It'll be 100 years in 27, which is
Yeah,
crazy.
it is. That is amazing. That's
Yeah,
cool that it's been able to last that long. And hopefully today we'll talk a little bit about some of the ups and downs. I know there were some periods of time that
yeah,
didn't know if it was going to quite make it.
yeah.
Um, so yeah, glad to have you on, Harry. Why don't you
Thanks
give
for
us a
having
little
me.
background about yourself, just in general?
Oh, so I moved to Kalamazoo to go to Western Michigan, and kind of an
Go
interesting story.
Broncos! I
Yeah,
went there
go
too. Yeah.
Broncos.
My wife went
Um,
there.
yeah, and kind of an interesting story because I had to work. Unfortunately, I didn't have all my college paid for, so I was kind of working part time at Channel 3, and stumbled across this other cool part time job at the Kalamazoo State Theatre. I worked there a little bit for about 6 or 8 months, my first year out here, as an usher and security.
Okay.
So kind of a weird full circle moment that came around way later on. Um, but the reason that happened is my first few weeks at Channel 3, they came to me and said, I was kind of an intern, and they're like, "What do
Sure.
you know about music?" And I'm like, "Why? I know quite a bit. What do you need?" And they're like, "Well, we had a few people call in sick. We needed someone to go to Kalamazoo State Theater and do an interview with Bruce Hornsby."
Nice.
And so my first few weeks, at Western and Kalamazoo, I'm at Channel 3, and I get to go to the theater and interview Bruce Hornsby, who,
Mhm.
quite honestly, is a character. Um,
Okay.
Really?
yeah, it's really kind of cool. He's got this really dry sense of humor, um, and that's when I learned that they hired part time for ushers and stuff. So I kind of got that job. So it's kind of interesting. Um, and then I graduated Western, and Channel 3 offered me a job right out of the gate. So I
Sweet.
stayed. I was going to go into the sports department and be on air and stuff. And I just, after a while, decided that wasn't what I wanted to do, and kind of moved into promotion and marketing.
Okay.
Um, and that's kind of how I got into marketing. And I spent 10 years at Channel 3, and then moved on. Kind of stayed in TV. I was working for Charter, doing marketing for their ad sales in 3 states. Um, and then I got a call from a friend that I used to work with at Channel 3, and he's like, "Here's a number. Her name's Stephanie. You have to call her. This is the job for you." And that person was our executive director, Stephanie Hinman. And after about an hour or so on the phone, she said, "I'm going to post a job and stuff." And I did some interviews, a couple of rounds, and I ended up getting what I consider my dream job, at the
Ooh.
Kalamazoo State Theater that many years later, after, working there part time for a few months and stuff like
Yeah.
that. So that's kind of my background, 20 plus years of doing marketing. And I have a music background as well. I've been kicking around in a band and stuff for years. And so it was like the perfect job for me.
That's awesome. So
That's cool.
let's give you a little plug for your band. What's the band? You guys play much?
We haven't played much recently. The band's named Lisa Can't Sing. Huge story behind that as well. And yes, Lisa is the singer. Um, but
Awesome.
we were kind of a cover band for years, and then I got a little tired of doing just covers, and I started writing, and we put out our first CD last October, and
Oh,
um,
awesome.
had a CD release party and stuff like that. But yeah, we've been playing in Kalamazoo for like 11 years. And not just Kalamazoo. I mean, we've played Grand Rapids, and
Sure.
we actually went to Marco Island and played a whirlpool convention,
Ooh.
and so we've done some fun stuff.
Wow.
Yeah.
What's your skill set? So what do you play?
I try to play guitar. No, no,
Mhm. Good answer.
I'm the guitar player, and I write all the music.
Okay.
And we're really just, we're a power trio with a singer. We got guitar, bass, drums. Our bass player, Deb, writes all the lyrics, and just we just have fun. Don't
Sure.
take it too
Cool.
serious.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
great. So the State Theater,
When's the last time you were there, Jeff? State
probably
Theater.
back in college
You think so?
when I was at Western. Yeah, I will say that is one thing that I probably a venue that I haven't really visited very much that I should, because it is a very cool and there's a lot of ornate, I don't want to say fixtures, just the design of that theater is really neat.
It is so. I've been working there for more than 4 years. I still find new things in that theater every time I'm in there. New little details, new little characters that he the architect was John Eberson out of Chicago.
Okay.
And in the 20s to early 30s, he built hundreds of theaters. He was actually, they nicknamed him Theater John. But the one he specialized in was what's called an atmospheric theater. And he wanted you to feel like you were outside. And that's what our theater is. It's got the stars on the ceiling, and just he wanted you to feel like you were watching, breaking the fourth wall and watching things outside. He built about 117 to 120 of those kind of theaters. There's only 17 left in operation in the country.
Wow.
So we're one of those 17. So when you talk about that, and it's interesting you say that, like you went there when you were in college, and I went there when I was in college. For whatever reason, the college students, we work really hard to try to get them to come to the theater because they don't seem to want to leave campus anymore. But when they do, and when they come in, they're just blown away. We actually did a partnership last year with all 3 colleges, with K College, K Valley, and Western, and they brought in Ludacris. And it was and it was a student and faculty only. You had to either be a student or a faculty to buy the tickets, but I'm pretty sure a lot of the students bought tickets for their parents because there were a lot of, I think, non-students there. But we had the house pretty well packed, and they were just blown away when they came in. When they'd walk in, they'd just look up and be like, so that's one of my favorite parts, is to see how happy people are to be in there.
Right.
I mean, you know what it's like when you're anticipating going to see a concert or your favorite band, and then you get in there, you're so happy, right? And that's the part I love about my job.
That's great.
All the smiling faces,
yeah,
enthusiasm.
Yeah.
Can you kind of give
the one place? To me, it's still the one place where people put aside their political differences and that they root for a different sports team and all of that kind of stuff, because they're like, you like this band, I like this band, you're good.
Yeah, we're all here for the same reason, right? And we're all going in the same direction, essentially. Right. Yeah, I love that. Yeah, I think music does bring people together.
For sure.
Is great.
Yeah.
Heck yeah. Jeff, when's the last? Oh, I guess when's the last time you've been there? Do you remember who it was that you saw?
I don't remember.
You don't?
I should
pull back. That's usually one of the questions I always ask people if they've been there. What their favorite show was. So, I mean, when's the last time you were there?
So I'm trying to recall if I'm mixing up this concert with a couple episodes ago. I mixed up K-Wing Stadium and the State Theater for some reason. I don't know why. I think not because of name, because of what it looked like. So I'm trying to. I want to say it was Everclear and Soul Coughing and Black Eyed Peas that I saw there in like 98 or 99. But the more I think about it, it might have been K-Wings.
I was going to say, I'll have to look that up on our past artists list because I don't remember Black Eyed Peas.
Because, I remember it being I remember the outside waiting, and it was not the State Theater. So it had to have been the K-Wing Stadium.
That sounds like a Wings.
So now I'm thinking, who was it? Because I know I've been there only once. And I'm trying to remember who was it that I saw, and I can't think of it now. I've been thinking all day, and I kept thinking about this. I'm like, it's the Everclear shows what I went.
What I wish I would have been there for is back in the, I guess it would have been maybe late 80s, probably early 90s, right? When Smashing Pumpkins, I think, came, and Soundgarden came, Pearl Jam was there, Red Hot Chili Peppers. I think Pearl Jam opened for Red Hot Chili Peppers.
They were all there the same night?
No.
Yeah. So here's the deal. Yeah, and I have a story about that show. Yes, early 90s, Red Hot Chili Peppers was the headliner. It was Smashing Pumpkins and Pearl Jam.
Oh my gosh, that is insanity.
I wish I could go back in time and go see that show.
I mean, when you think about that, like artists of that caliber that were all on the same bill in there, right? Like how cool that was. But even better, we have a statue. There's 2 statues on the lower level on either side. One of them actually went crowd surfing during that show. and we have the repair bill for it still, like in our archives.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah. But what a great show, right?
Yeah.
You know, I think some people thought it was Nirvana, but it was Smashing Pumpkins, because I think Nirvana ended up playing. Well, I think they came through once and played something like Club Soda, and then they came back and they were playing like Wings, right,
Ooh.
with somebody. But yeah, that was a huge show. Huge show.
It was right before they probably really broke. I mean, Red Hot Chili Peppers would have been big.
Yeah, they
I
were
think.
big, and Pearl Jam hadn't broke yet, really, and neither had Smashing Pumpkins.
That's a weird thing to hear someone say. Oh yeah, Pearl Jam hadn't even got popular. What?
Yeah,
They
no.
weren't even the opener or the headliner, you know.
Right.
And not that this isn't the same music genre, but NSYNC was there, and their opener was Britney Spears.
Aw, of course.
Crazy.
Right. So
That's
I
cool.
mean,
It's
the cool thing.
That's what I love about, and you know, here a lot of what we talk about, right, is local music, and somebody starts there, right? Somebody big eventually gets big, but they all start small. And if you can catch them at these small venues, which are super important for the musicians, as well as for the fans, right, to see these things happen before you realize it, before the world realizes it, maybe is the better word to say. So that's what's so important about what you guys are doing, and so many other venues in the state. But that's what I love.
Yeah, and I mean, quite honestly, it's one of the toughest things to do, and sometimes you kind of get lucky with some of it, but you know, we're constantly looking at the music scene going, who's going to be next that maybe we can get in here on their way up that you know, we got really lucky last year. We had Carly Pierce, who's in the country world. And we were actually trying to get another artist, and they had verbally confirmed or through email and then said, no, we're not going to be able to do it. But how about Carly Pierce? And we didn't know a lot about her, but we said yes, and we took it on because we're hoping, you know, that favor will get us one, right?
Yeah.
And within 2 or 3 weeks of announcing her, she blew up and started winning all the CMA awards and all these other awards.
She was
right?
the.
And it was just one of those like, okay, you know, so that stuff kind of happens, right?
Right.
And then you look at like we just had Green Sky Bluegrass, right? Who's you know, they all started in Kalamazoo, and they started playing small places and got bigger, and then they hit the Kalamazoo State Theatre, and then they blew up. Yeah. They're really big. They can play anywhere they want almost in a lot of places. I mean, they, you know, some of them are out of Colorado now, but they still come and play 2 shows a year with us because there's something about the tradition for them. Normally it's Thanksgiving weekend. This year they did New Year's Eve and the day before, and it's 2 sold out shows every year, and their fans come from all over. I talk to people from Georgia and Traverse City and Ohio and all kinds of places, you know, so those are the cool stories, right? And you're right, seeing bands in that environment. I've been lucky to see bands in little tiny places before they blew up, and it's really cool.
Is Green Sky a Michigan band?
Yeah,
are they from Michigan.
Yeah.
So we have
Kalamazoo
the option to interview. So my buddy at work is like best friends with them. It's funny that you just mentioned that they were there because he just said, "Yeah, I saw Green Sky 4 times in the last 3 weeks, dude."
Yeah.
Like, what? He's like, yeah, we saw him Kalamazoo here. His wife is a diehard. They just got married recently, and she's seen him like 150. She's
their fans are like deadheads.
Yeah, exactly. Right? They also do it with Fish. They do it with Fish too. They go see Fish a million times. They go see Green Sky.
They played 2 nights at the Fillmore in Detroit.
Yes, they were
at both nights. Played 2 nights with us.
Yep, that's what they did.
But yeah, cool. Their fans are people who don't know Green Sky Bluegrass are always like, well, what is that? And I'm like, it's like the Grateful Dead meets the Allman Brothers meets Pink Floyd meets Alison Krauss, because there's some traditional bluegrass in there, but they're a jam band like the Allman Brothers, and their light show is amazing, just amazing light show. And their fans, like I said, they follow them like the Dead.
Yeah.
So
my buddy at work said he wants to have them on our show so we can listen to it. And I said, just come. Invite them over, and you come too. And
yeah, exactly. Yeah,
awesome.
I think a couple of them still live in Kalamazoo. A few of them moved to Colorado, but they're great guys, and they put on an amazing show. They played until 1 a.m. You know, New Year's.
Well, I guess that makes sense. New Year's.
Yeah, So
Start at 8, finish at 1.
Actually, bring up some point. I wanted to ask that now you bring that up. I would never even would have thought to ask this, but are there some like rules and regulations around that from an indoor? I know outdoor there's like noise violations or whatever, but for indoor for you guys, can you guys run a show as late as you want?
Not as late as we want because the liquor laws. I mean, I guess you can run the show. You got to shut the drinking down at a certain point. We can. Most of the artists want to be done. What I'm seeing with a lot of artists is they're way shortening what they do. They really are. The industry is so different, but there's none that I know of. There's no rules that I know of what time.
Okay.
There's no curfews like an outdoor one. But what I'm seeing, and this is why the ticket prices have gone where they have. You know, people complain about ticket prices. Well, it's what happened with the record industry, right? And streaming and illegal downloading. Artists can't make the money off their royalties and their songwriting and their record sales anymore.
Right.
So they're charging way more for the concerts, and because they're touring so much, a lot of them, they're not playing 2.5 hours like they used to. Some of these bands, it's an hour and a half, hour, 15 minutes, and they're out.
Yeah. It's a lot of energy to give out if you're going to do it every night, basically.
Yeah.
Whereas in the past, maybe you could take, what you're saying is that you might be able to take a little break and then pull it, bring it on the weekends or whatever you're going to do.
Well, they made more of their money off of record sales and stuff, and now they have to make their money off of touring.
Touring and merch, right? Merch is the other big one.
Yeah.
They got to sell merch because
t-shirts. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's like the baseline these days.
Yeah. And the VIP packages, that's another thing. There's a lot of VIP packages. Obviously, post-COVID, the meet and greet situation's changed a lot. So what they got creative though. A lot of them are doing, you get a merch bundle, and some of them are doing, like Carly Pierce did a kind of come in and check and do a Q&A, and we'll play some songs acoustically. Ani DeFranco did that too. Said, hey, come in and see Soundcheck, and I'm going to do this. Joe Satriani did a Q&A session and did autographs. So
awesome.
COVID has changed a lot of that stuff, but there's some cooler things coming now, because those old meet and greets, and I don't know if you've ever done one with a big band, they walk you in with your group, or 3 or 4 at a time, stand you in front of the band, snap a picture, and usher you out. You're there for 10 seconds and you get a picture, right? Damn. And to me, the coolest thing, like Joe Satriani did 45 minutes of taking questions from people and telling stories. And how cool is that?
Yeah, for sure.
So
that's really neat.
Do you get involved on the ticket sales side part much? I mean, I feel like you're probably somehow. I guess I'm trying to get at like what's the whole Ticketmaster, Live Nation, all the inflated fee stuff over the years. Because I remember buying a ticket, 95, 96, and it was $10 or $20 and all in, and you're like, yeah, this is great.
Yeah,
just recently
I used to live on the other side of the state, and I'd go get lawn seats at Pine Knob for $5. We'd go see people. I saw Jimmy Buffett a few times just because that's what you did. You went and sat on the lawn.
I always joke with people and say it was like the mall, because I grew up on the east side of the state, not too far from Pine Knob, and basically you'd go there, and because you'd either get free tickets or real cheap tickets, you just go hang out. If you didn't even care about the band, you just go.
That's cool.
Yep. Yeah. And I'm glad I never stopped calling it Pine Knob, but I'm glad it's back to Pine Knob. As far as what I do, so I don't really book the bands. We have a director of programming who does an amazing job. She's the one who works with promoters and agents. Some of the shows we buy the artists, we pay for everything and bring them in. Sometimes a promoter comes in and rents the building and brings the band in. So there's 2 different ways shows come in. That's interesting. But yes, me and my team are responsible for getting the tickets sold when it's our show. So we're a Ticketmaster outlet or venue. There's good and bad with that. I mean, I understand the public outcry with the fees and all of that stuff. And believe me, we don't like it either. But it's fee-free in the box office. So if people come into the box office, it's fee-free. No taxes.
That's what you try. Every time I try to do that.
Have you seen an uptick in that in the last couple of years? Or is it really not really changing?
I've seen an uptick in people complaining about it to us.
Yeah,
and at the end of the day,
but not changing.
No. 70% of the sales are still online, right?
Yeah, they don't want to go take the time to go into the venue.
No. They want us to knock the fees down online, which we can't do. I mean, again, it's a good and bad with Ticketmaster. Ticketmaster has a lot of great things built into working with them. They have a lot of great marketing tools, which is one of the reasons why you use them, and they can handle what we do. Some of the smaller ticketing companies can't. But one of the other downsides that we're seeing in the industry, regardless of who your ticket provider is, are the reselling and the people scalping. Mm-hmm. Because scalping's legal now in Michigan. They got rid of it years ago. And people are either buying way inflated tickets or they're buying fake tickets. And then they're at the door, can't get in, or they see that the ticket prices were $60 and they paid $300 and they're mad at us. And there's not a lot we can do about it.
Right.
And so
it's really sad about that. Yeah. Cause I get so frustrated. Like, I feel like there's even groups of people that just buy up all these tickets and then they resell them and that they're making money on it. I get why they're doing it, but at the same time, they're taking away from the people who really care about the music.
Yeah. And there's tons of legit legal reselling sites out there that operate out of other states, and we can't do anything to shut them down. So, I always, when I have an opportunity like this and I'm doing an interview or a podcast or anything, it's like, I always tell people there's only 2 places to get tickets for our shows: in our box office, Ticketmaster.com. If you're anywhere else, you're probably buying it from someone who's inflating it. So, so that's changed a lot of stuff too. But yeah, my team is responsible for selling the tickets and marketing it. We get to do a lot of cool stuff. What I love about my job is every show is different because every artist has a different fan base, so it's not doing all the same stuff all the time. And sometimes you got to get creative. We don't have huge budgets for these shows. But I'm really lucky. I have 2 other people on my team. I have a digital content coordinator and a marketing manager, and they do an amazing job on our social medias, which is really the lifeline for venues today to market the shows. Without that, we just don't have the budget to do the things that, like a Live Nation as a promoter is doing with Beyonce and Taylor Swift and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, it's a lot of fun, and I do a lot of this kind of stuff to try to market it. But at the end of the day, my number one job is putting people in those seats and making sure they know what great shows we have.
Yeah.
How many people does the State Theater hold?
For concerts, it's around 15-40, depending on whether they want a standing pit or seats down there. Okay. We also do some movies. We do some classic movies. Our 2 big ones every year. We do Rocky Horror Picture Show and National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation, and we usually have about 1,000 people in there. So imagine going to watch a movie with 1,000 people.
That'd
be pretty cool.
I'd see either of those movies with 1,000 people. That sounds fun.
Yeah,
I always tell people it's like watching a movie with 1,000 of your best friends. It is crazy. Yeah, it's a crazy time.
And then you have like comedians and stuff come in too, right?
Yeah. So that's been really, I will say, post-pandemic, that has been the hottest ticket all around is comedy shows. And we've had quite a few, and a lot of them have been brought in by Live Nation. John Mulaney, Chelsea Handler, Nikki Glazer, Lewis Black, Nate Bargatze. We had the Whose Line Is It Anyway group in there. And most of them are selling out and doing 2 shows a night with us. So like coming out of the pandemic, it seems people really needed to laugh and they really wanted the comedy. So that has been the most consistent to me coming out of the pandemic, the most consistent live entertainment when you're talking about, these kind of big ticket items is comedy.
Yeah. That's interesting.
Something I thought about related to Ticketmaster is one good thing that they've done recently is it might have been a law that was changed where they have to display the full ticket price, what the tickets get minus tax, instead of the fee coming at checkout and be like, whoa, it's like 45% of the original ticket. So I went to get Verve Pipe in the Valley Below tickets, and it's a little banner at the top said that, and I was like, oh man, these tickets seem really expensive. And I glanced at the banner again. Oh, that's because all the fees are included. Oh, this is I'm cool. This is fine. Now I know that it's $50. This is a $50.
Actually, I think the law is they have to show you all the fees. They can't do a one price thing. Like that's what the law was.
Yeah. Oh, so they do break it like, when you go to check
they
out.
still have to
But
show you. They can't hide it. Like, I like the one price out the door.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I like.
It's
just
a
easier to.
psychological thing with people buying, but they on their own, there was a lot of pressure around it. Decided to show the all. So, again, I mean, I was buying some concert tickets for my daughter a month ago, and it's like, it's already bad enough. They're like $85, and then you put them in the cart, 2 tickets, okay, $170, and then all the fees pop in, and you're like, whoa.
Right.
So it is nice now to know what you're in for, but still people, are like, why am I paying $13 for this and $14 for this? And, like our movies, our movies are usually $12 to $15 tickets. If you buy them through Ticketmaster, they turn into $30 tickets to go see a movie. So that's the one place where we get 80%, 85% of our sales in the box office, for something like that.
Yeah. And that's the thing that drives me nuts is the lower price ticket. Like, it seems like the service fee, regardless, is about what it's going to be.
Yeah.
But then if you had a small ticket, like I went to a show in we went to Pyramid Scheme in Grand Rapids, it was a $20 ticket, $8 service fee on top of that. I'm like, I'm not doing it. I'm going to the Pyramid Scheme and going to buy it.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I'm that kind of person, but most people probably aren't going to do that. But it's crazy. I mean, the percentage doesn't make sense.
No, it doesn't.
Low ticket.
Yeah. And unfortunately, again, I mean, as much as we all can complain about it, it's, they're the, 30,000 pound gorilla in the industry, right? And
that's what I was saying. On the capitalistic side, it's awesome.
Now that Live Nation owns them, it's, what are you going to do?
Yeah.
So, But like I said, I always tell people, come to our box office. No fees. And for those of you that still love the printed tickets, the printout, to have your ticket collection, we still do that. You don't have to have an electronic one.
I had to get mine for the last Tool show we saw. We had electronic tickets, and I had to go back like a week later, and they printed me my actual seat ticket right at the box office. It took like 30 seconds. Like, oh, we can print it for you. It was in the past.
And it's cool they don't, because nobody tears them anymore.
So I have it. Yeah.
You don't need to scan them. So you can actually get the whole ticket.
Now, which one was that? Cool. Was that the Van Andel show?
Yeah, that was the last Van Andel one. Yeah. Okay. Jeff and I and a couple other friends went that.
Yeah. I saw him right before the pandemic at Little Caesars, and I would have loved to have seen him at Van Andel instead.
I saw him 30 days before the pandemic started in Vegas, and it was bonkers.
Nice.
It was bonkers. Nice. It was so good. I can't wait to see him at the Sphere.
We're going to see him at the Kalamazoo State Theatre.
Oh, yeah, that would be badass. We saw him.
I would love to. I think we got a better shot at getting Pussifer, but, you never know.
Yeah, I would go see Pussifer for sure.
Yeah.
So what's kind of your sweet spot, would you say, for artists? Because the theater, I mean, you guys, you're talking about 1,500 people, right? Mm-hmm. A good number. Obviously, it's not that next echelon like you talk about because really from there, you got to get to almost like a Van Andel, maybe a little bigger. There may be some smaller venues than that, but like that's the next level. So what's the next level? What are you looking at when you?
Yeah, the next level after us is kind of the 3,000, 4,000, 5,000 level, and then you get into Van Andel because I think they're like double that, triple that. I mean, it's hard. We get people all the time like, why can't you bring in this artist and why can't you bring in that artist? It's like, well, tickets would be $500. That's the other part of it. We could bring in some bigger artists, but we're going to have to charge a lot more. And one of the things we've tried to do over the years is try to keep the ticket prices in that reasonable price range. Unless you're buying VIP or platinum, we don't have tickets over $100. Right? Like we're just not there. I mean, we're usually in the $45 to $75 range for tickets. So it comes down to that, and also comes down to what the artist wants to do. Some artists are starting to go back to playing smaller, intimate places here and there, or doing residencies. It's one of the things, I was in Nashville for a conference, and they're talking about that. But for us, it's a lot of artists on the way up, or those legacy artists. They can't draw the arena crowd anymore unless they put a package together. I mean, you look at like the Def Leppard, Journey, Poison, like they have to have the 3 big acts. So we get a lot of people on the way up, but then we, like last year we had Cheap Trick who sold out. The Indigo Girls came back out and sold out. So we get a lot of that too. which is really cool.
Do you
So
think
that's kind of our sweet spot.
You mentioned this, that you could do it, and I do think there's a certain audience that would pay. Like, would it be worth an experiment to bring in an artist, and it's $500 a ticket, but it's a bigger artist. You're at a small, like, the whole
Just
thing
to
is
see
right,
who
the
would go.
experience, because you can't see these bands that just play arenas now. You can't see them at a small venue. So if you missed the boat years ago, like,
It could be the second chance, but a super expensive one.
Would
Yeah.
I don't know if the bands would even be willing, but like you said,
Mhm.
some bands are more.
Yeah.
They want that. They kind of miss, I think, that intimate feel again that they haven't had for years. I think it's worth the experiment, because I might be willing to pay. Actually, as much as I'm more frugal, might be willing to pay $400 or $500
To see who.
to be 1,000.
That's what I was
in
gonna
a
ask you.
1,000-seat venue.
Who would
would it be?
500 bucks?
For you?
Britney Spears.
No. I don't.
Insane.
That's a good question. I'm trying to think of. I mean, there's a lot of bands. I mean, hey, let's do the Red Hot Chili Peppers Smashing Pumpkins show again. No, I know that's not going to happen.
I would pay $500 to see them play at the State Theater.
Yeah,
both of them.
definitely.
Hell yeah, I would.
Yeah.
In a heartbeat.
I mean, there's a few different answers to that question. Is it worth the experiment? It might be, but it's an expensive experiment, right? Like, you're talking high six figures to get some of these bands in like that, and it's production costs and all the other stuff. And you're really rolling the dice. But like you said, you kind of hit it on the head. A lot of it has to do with either the band or their management and what they're willing to do and what they're willing to try. I mean, no promises, but I will tell you that we've had some internal discussions for our 100-year celebration. Like, it would be really cool to go find one of those bands that, was big in the 90s.
He's not even going to say.
And bring them
He's
back.
not going to say who. You've been talking about a few bands. I know you have, and
Now,
you're not going to say.
I would say this: if you do this, right? So if you ended up going down the avenue, I say you have to sell only at the box office, because then we get the event where everybody camps out like it was years ago.
Like the old days,
1,500 tickets, like, the online tickets would be gone in sub-seconds.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
to
Yeah,
actually
like
give
the old
the fan actually a
JCPenney's,
chance.
right? You camp out the old JCPenney. Yeah. Well, I will tell you this. One of the things that we've implemented and a lot of promoters have implemented is an 8-ticket limit. And that's helped keep some of the bots from buying a lot. They still do it because they have to launch more bots to get 8 kind of thing. But that's helped.
Right.
But yeah, I would love to see something like that. What a cool event would that be to see people lined up and waiting to come in. And so it's something we would love to do. We're just trying to get ourselves in the position to do it, and and see if we can find the right artist that would want to do it. But that's kind of where we would have to be at, right? It's just basic math. And unfortunately, whether we like it or not, it is the music business. And that's the way these artists and promoters look at it. They all want to make as much money as they can. So they're going to get their money. So now we've got to divide it by 1,500 and see how much we have to charge.
What
right?
that means, exactly.
Yeah.
You heard it here, folks. Tool. State Theatre Kalamazoo 2027. Tickets are $500.
Yeah.
Just joking.
Yeah. I don't know that would be
awesome.
our first choice, but I mean, for me, it might be. But I love them.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, you look back throughout the history, of, because the theater was, we've only had 2 owners, which I think when you think about that, since 1927, it was Colonel Butterfield, who at that time it was a movie house and a vaudeville house, right? It was silent movies and vaudeville troops. And you had people back in the day like Louis Armstrong was on that stage, Three Stooges, things like that. But he was kind of like the Blockbuster and Redbox thing. When the talkies came out, he's like, that's a fad. That's a fad. We're going to stick with our silent movies. And he was really behind in adapting and going, fine, we'll show him. And he finally just got to the point where he wasn't doing a lot in the 60s and 70s. And then, it was around 80, 81 where he's like, I'm going to try to sell it. And he couldn't sell it. And then the city was going to bulldoze it. I mean, it was like the lyrics from the song. They were going to turn it into a parking lot.
Wow.
And there was a huge Save the State campaign that came out of the community. And that's when the Hinman Company purchased it, when Roger Hinman bought it and I shouldn't say dumped. He put a lot of money into it. He invested in it, got it back up and running. And that's when it became a live entertainment venue. That's when it became a concert venue.
Do you know why that caught his eye and why he went on to purchase it?
A little bit.
It?
I mean, it was a special place for him, and it still is. You know, he loves the place, and it was one of those things that meant something to him, and he wanted to buy it, and still to this day, you know, he loves the place, and
cool.
Yeah, and so that's when it became a concert venue. And then you look at some of the acts that came through during that time. A lot of people I talked to who were coming to concerts during that time were like, I saw Black Sabbath there, and I saw Alice Cooper there, and you know, and Ted Nugent. And then here's one that, you know, is a really cool thing. Tim Allen did a big show there.
Oh,
after he got
show, I'm assuming, right?
Yeah.
He did. I didn't. Yeah, he did stand up.
Yeah.
I don't think I've ever seen a stand up before.
Yeah.
Huh. But yeah, of course, he was a comedian. Then he got
He's from Michigan.
Yeah, he's from Michigan.
Yeah.
And he went to Western.
Mm-hmm.
That's right.
Yep.
Yeah. Got arrested in Kalamazoo. That's where he got thrown into
cocaine.
But yeah, I mean, that's kind of an interesting, when you look at the history of the theater, you know, that was a huge change right there of it becoming a concert venue. And that was something that Colonel Butterfield was just kind of like, you know, he didn't even want to go to the movies with sound, you know?
Right. Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
2027 free Tim Allen comedy show.
Love it. Well, you know what? Here's the other thing, because, you know, people always think a lot of theaters our age are nonprofits, right? So you have a lot of advantages as a nonprofit with grants and different things.
Sure.
We're not a nonprofit.
Interesting.
So we can't get a lot of that, the grants and stuff. So for me, one of the other parts of the development part of my big long title, the weird title, you know, I secure sponsorships and partnerships with a lot of businesses around West Michigan. And, you know, that could be one way to bring in a Tim Allen or a, you know, tool for you, you know, as if someone was like, hey, we want to be part of this history and stuff. So I work with a lot of sponsors. Our State on the Street, we've been very fortunate. That is not a moneymaker. We did that for the community coming out of the pandemic and to help the artists. Because we can't sell tickets to it. It's outside. You can walk up and watch it. We've had sponsors every year that have helped that, and that's what pays the artists. You know, something we're big on. You know, we support the artists and support the community. So it wasn't like, hey, come play for free. We pay you know, every local artist that comes through there. So
that's great.
Yeah, so it was kind of a cool thing. You know, when they started allowing the outdoor the restaurants to have the outdoor seating and eat outside, we asked if we could do the same thing, and they said yes. So we got permission from the city to shut down the road in front of the theater, and we started bringing in these artists who had nowhere to play, and that's how State on the Street started, when we had nothing to do inside, no indoor shows.
Is State on the Street mostly local bands then?
Yeah.
Or is it? Okay, it is.
Yeah, it started as Kalamazoo bands the first year, and now we've had some from Grand Rapids, and you know, probably some that you guys have probably talked to or worked with, like Flylight Gemini.
Oh yeah, we did have them on.
They've played State on the Street a few times. We just had Fake Baseball play last year. Okay. I'm trying to think of some of the other ones, but yeah, that's what it was all about, was like, let's give them a place to play. Before that, I was doing live streams with local artists. And out of where I'm sitting right now, similar program, I would, you know, bring them on. They would be playing in their apartment or garage or whatever, and I'd let them play and I'd interview them. And I did that. Jake Kershaw was our first live stream, actually.
Oh, cool!
Jake, right out of the gate.
Yeah.
So, and then that morphed into, we did several live streams in the building where we sold tickets through a couple of different online platforms, and we had the Michigan Rattlers. Did an amazing live stream. Last Gasp Collective, the Go Rounds. We did one with the Go Rounds. I'm trying to think who else. So it's amazing what, you know, the adversity forces you into, right?
Yeah.
And how you can adapt.
You didn't have to use Ticketmaster for the live stream ones, because it's a different type of agreement. I was
Well, it had mostly to do with the pandemic, and they were shut down too. And they furloughed all their people. I mean, most people in our industry, they either furloughed or, severance people. We were very fortunate at the theater that, Stephanie, our executive director, was like, what should we do? I don't want to furlough people. Let's find things to do. I remember the phone call. She's like, all right, marketing guy, what do we do now? And of course, none of us thought it was going to last as long as it did. But I'm like, the one thing I know from like 2007, 8, and 9, when we had some recessions and a lot of the advertisers, like the auto dealers, pulled back, the ones that stayed out there and stayed relevant and had a message out there, when things came back, they were the first to recover and start selling and have customers. And I'm like, we just have to stay relevant. Which is where the live streams came from. And then the Stayed on the Streets came from. But it had so many other positive effects. It was just so great, and we, quite honestly, we try to support downtown Kalamazoo. I mean, that's full of, they're all local business owners. There's no chains downtown Kalamazoo. And we needed to do something to help bring business back to them too, because we need that, so
yeah, it's like
an interesting time, but we all loved it so much. We were doing it every Friday during the pandemic when we could be outside during the summer. And then when we got our day jobs back and started getting shows inside, we're like, well, how do we do both? Can we? So now we do it once a month instead of every Friday. But people still come. I mean, I never thought 4 years later people would still want to come to that. So it's been a cool thing.
Heck yeah. That's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. Doing something cool for sure.
Harry, what was the last concert you purchased a ticket for? I'm sure you have access to go to lots of concerts that you don't have to buy a ticket for. What's the last one you bought a ticket for?
So I haven't gone
to
the
last good one.
Well, for myself personally, the last one I bought tickets to is I went and saw Alter Bridge Seven Dust at 20 Monroe Live.
Ooh, yeah. Heck yeah. Oh, yeah, that was the summer, right?
Yeah.
I remember. I remember Seven Dust came through.
Yeah. For a couple of reasons. One, I got to see Seven Dust at the District here, the Wild Bull, like in a tiny little space. Super cool show. They were amazing. And I've always wanted to see Alter Bridge. So that was the last one I personally bought for myself. The last one I went to that wasn't at our building, I was given the tickets, but I took my daughter to see the Jonas Brothers at Van Andel.
Oh, that's okay. That's cool.
Yeah. Let me just say this. They're way more talented than I thought they were.
Right.
Their band was amazing. They put on a great show. But they came out and they're like, we're here to celebrate 5 albums tonight. We're playing all of them. And I'm like, yeah, you're not playing all 5 of them. Seriously?
They sped it up and they did it.
They did. They played medleys of the songs that weren't hits. So they played for like an hour and a half, and then the lights came on and everyone stood up and I go, oh, they're not going to do an encore. Okay. I look up at the screen. It says intermission.
Oh, wow. Another hour and a half to go.
They played another hour and a half. I got 3 hours of Jonas Brothers education.
That's cool to put together that long a show. Like you said, that's a lot of artists are cutting back. That it's cool to see somebody that plays, longer.
It was so impressive because everything was live and real. You could tell there was no tracks. There was nothing canned. Their band was amazing. And here's one thing that I didn't realize. There's certain artists you think of like they have a heavily choreographed show, right?
Yeah.
If you're going to go see a Beyonce, it's choreographed, and Taylor Swift.
Yep.
This was choreographed in a different way, but their team did an amazing job to make sure everything was just spot on. All the changes. When you go from playing 45 seconds of one song into 45 seconds of another, and then into this song with instrument changes and all this other stuff, and you don't notice anything going wrong. I mean, it was impressive for 3 hours. Really was.
Dang.
Yeah, it's cool.
Yeah.
Like those pit stop guys that change tires in like 0.8 seconds these days. I was watching a montage from like the 30s to the 50s to the 80s till today, and it's like the seconds keep dropping off, and these guys are like, boop, boop, boop.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like
yeah.
A roadie's the same thing. Just whipping the guitar on, whipping the other one off.
Yeah. And that's the thing,
encores,
yeah.
Go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, that's the thing people don't realize with concerts is how much goes into production when they come, right? So
yeah,
I have no idea.
When you talked about encores, now I've heard this as a theory, and I have seen this now with like Metallica I went to recently. So they didn't do an encore. I heard that encores are kind of going away a little bit. Is that a truth? Have you seen that or not?
What?
Yes, I've seen it a little bit. I don't know if it's a thing, like a trend or whatever. I think what you have are there's certain artists that what is the best way to put it? They just go out there and like we have one artist that almost a sold out show. Will remain nameless.
Sure.
Yes.
Did not even do his own sound check. Didn't walk on that stage until he didn't leave his tour bus until he had to be on stage.
Oh my.
Wow.
And it's artists like that are like, I'm playing, and when I'm done, I'm walking off stage. I don't need to do an encore.
It's a job to them. It's like a 9 to 5.
Yeah.
I'm walking in, doing my thing, I'm out.
It's like, I don't owe you that. I gave you my I'm not gonna. And then some artists are like, they think it's pretentious, and I'm not gonna walk off stage and come back out. So they'll actually say, hey, we're not gonna leave for an encore. We're just gonna play you the next 2 songs. And then you have other artists that just they love it, right? They love going off the stage and waiting for the applause.
They come out and play the best last 2 songs they got.
Well, I think it is though. It is partly like, hey, I want to hear them chant for me, like. A lot,
like they're narcissists.
Like right. Yeah. I think so. Because the other flip side that I've heard on not doing the encores is like everybody knows it's coming. Like just play the last couple songs, your best songs last, and it's done. Right? Like everybody knows what they're there for. They want those hits that they know are coming at the end. If you just play them, they're done. But it is there for the audience. I do still think there's a little bit of this like hype, right?
Yeah,
they're going to come back. I don't want the show to just be over. It's kind of like it's done. And I don't leave the show till the lights come on. So I don't know it's over.
Oh, big boy Jeff over here doesn't leave till the lights come on.
I'm saying, if the lights don't come on, why would I leave?
He's camping overnight.
There's people that leave.
I've seen a few of those shows where they're like, yeah, I've seen a few of those where they're waiting and then the lights come on and you hear like the collective groan of 1,500 people like, you know.
Oh, man.
But you're right, what you were saying before. That's why I said some artists will just tell them on stage over the mic, like, look, we're not going to walk off for an encore. Here comes the next. These are the 2 you've been waiting for. We're going to close with our big hits, right? So it varies, you know. We've been really lucky. I mean, there's always stories and there's always something when you're dealing with celebrities and you're dealing with people that are on the road so much that sometimes something happened in another town and they got a little bit of a mood coming in or whatever. But we've been really lucky. We've had some great experiences, a lot of great artists, really cool to work with. So we've been really fortunate. Like the Green Sky guys are just amazing to work with. Super cool. You know, their encores are funny because they don't, I in 2 days only witnessed like 2 songs that were under 5 minutes. So like, I
feel like I've heard the same thing.
Yeah, like they were supposed to be done at 11:30, and they are just now leaving the stage, and they're going to come back and do a 2-song encore, and it was another 25 minutes, right? Like,
right.
So they give you your money's worth. Those guys do.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah,
that's cool.
Yeah.
So what's been your favorite show at the State Theater? Whether you bought tickets or not, what's been or maybe there's not one, maybe there's a couple, some highlighted over the whole since you were a teenager working there part-time.
Yeah, there's a couple things that stand out. So Joe Satriani's recent show that he came in, and the reason being is because my first show ever at the Kalamazoo State Theater was Joe Satriani way back when he was doing the Flying in a Blue Dream tour. And so to see him again that many years later was really cool for me and as a guitar player. So that's kind of one that kind of stood out as a highlight. I was a huge fan of the Whose Line Is It Anyway show, and to have those guys come in and see them do the same stuff live on stage, that was a highlight for me personally.
Like Drew Carey and all those guys?
No, they didn't have Drew Carey, but it was
the progressed
Wayne Brady.
No, Wayne way too big now. I'm trying to
remember the first season guys.
I want to say Niles, but it's
Wasn't one of them named Niles?
Colin.
Colin was one of them.
Yeah, Colin was going to be there, and then he pulled out of the tour. His health wasn't as good, but
Okay.
what's the really tall guy? I'm
Tall
drawing
guy?
blanks on names now.
I know. I want to say Niles.
No.
I don't know, but I know the face.
Yeah, but there was like 3 or 4 of the other regulars there, and I'm drawing a blank on the names. But
there's a lot of guys that or people that kind of move through that. Yeah.
But so they did have a couple of their main ones there, and
cool.
I don't know, it was just super cool to watch, and they pull in audience members on stage just like they would do on the show, and it was really, really cool. I will tell you, one of the first shows I went to when I started at the theater in 2019, and I wasn't a huge fan of the band, but watching them do sound check was really cool, and that's the Goo Goo Dolls.
Wow, really? I was not expecting you to say that.
I wasn't a huge fan of them. Yeah, but when they were doing sound check, he wasn't worried about how his guitar sounded or what the mic sounded like.
Yeah.
He was all about the first song. It comes out like this, and the light has to be on me, and I need to be a shadow, and they can't see me until I hit this line, and then I want you to transition. And he stayed out there and worked with the sound and lighting crew until they got that right, because he wanted that fan experience right out of the gate to be, spot on. Cool. And I was really impressed with that. And then they just had so much energy and were so into it and engaged the crowd. And it was a really, really cool show. Really? And then they ended up filming it and asked us if they could have permission to do some music videos out of it. And they did 2 new music videos out of that show. So that one really stands out to me as a, kind of a highlight show.
That kind of brings up a point that, there's certain bands. Now, you're talking about like what they want to do with the experience and stuff, but like there's certain bands that are live bands. They're just really good at being a live performer. They know what gets the audience. They're there and they just put on a good show. And then there's a lot of bands that just, I don't know, they sound like the record, or there's just not a lot of energy or something with them. And there's something to be said about those live bands that really, and to go to see a live show, it's a different experience than you just listening to them on anything, record, Spotify, whatever it is. And there's certain bands that hit in that category of like, they're the upper echelon of, they know how to put on.
They are entertainers. They're entertainers.
And even if you don't like their music that much, they can put on the best show, and it doesn't matter what music you're playing.
You still can enjoy it.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I was talking to somebody a few weeks ago that there's a huge difference between being a musician and being an entertainer. Like, there are people that are amazing musicians, and they're super boring to watch do their thing,
fair.
Right? And so, I really can appreciate the people that come out, and like, we've had REO Speedwagon a few times, and they blow the roof off the joint when they come in, right? They're just, everyone leaves happy. Now they play way too loud. They really overestimate what they have to do in the theater. But bands like that are amazing. Like, and we've again been really lucky. And when you're in that environment in the theater, there's not a bad seat in the house. Even when you're in the mezzanine and balcony, you feel like you're sitting on top of the stage. So you don't need a video screen to feel that performance or to see that it's a performance and to feel the interaction with the artists is really cool. It's really cool. Yeah. Now, you guys, I don't know if you heard about our Michigan night event we did last year.
I think you were telling me about that when we were out on the Sons of the Zoo. So how'd that go?
It went great. It was the first year of doing it, and we're working on it again this year. And we're working on a big headliner for it. But they were all Michigan-based bands. They either started in Michigan or, like Lindsay Lou's now in Nashville, but she started here. We had Patty Pershela and that was a really, really cool night because it was local, but it felt huge, right? Inside the theater, where you got 3 or 4 bands playing and a really energized crowd. And you want to talk about artists that came in to perform and put on a show. And it was really cool to see. It was like, and that was a really fun night last year.
When did you guys do that towards the end of the year, didn't you?
It was October. Yeah, it was in October. Okay. It was kind of close to Halloween. We did a costume contest and things like that. And we had
That's cool.
tarot readers there, you know.
Will it be
nice.
will it be if you do it again next year? Sounds like will it be the same time of year.
We're thinking about it. We're thinking about trying to make it a a Halloween themed thing, but I mean, putting the focus on the Michigan artists that are they're all on an upswing at some point, right?
Yeah.
And they're all doing really cool things and starting to really make it and really wanting to highlight the great talent we have here in Michigan. Everyone talks about Nashville all the time, right?
Yeah, that's what we've been learning.
It's like Nashville. Everyone wants to move to Nashville.
Mhm.
Well, guess what? You're
Yep.
not going to stand out in Nashville anymore.
Yeah.
Right. It's a time and place where you don't necessarily have to go somewhere to make it happen.
Right.
Right. I get it. There's definitely more opportunity there.
Mm-hmm.
What'd you do?
Just talking to the microphone more.
Oh,
it's got quiet. I was trying to get your attention by turning your headphones off.
Yeah,
It didn't work.
I wonder what the heck you're doing.
Did your phone fall off or something happened there?
I'm screwing around with the video versus
it's
the audio.
whatever.
The audio's more fun.
Whatever makes you comfortable.
So
as long as we can hear you.
What I think is interesting is that there is opportunity in Nashville. You're going to get seen more, right? I get that, but at the same time, there's a lot of things you can see here in Michigan, and you don't necessarily have to travel. And the Michigan music scene, I think is unbelievable. I think there's so many artists here, and there's so many venues, like yourselves, that have opportunity to go see a show. It's great.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think what's happened, so when I moved out here to go to Western, there was a really thriving music scene, right? And there was a lot of great places to see music. You had Rick's American Cafe, you had Club Soda, Harvey's was doing music at the time. I got sick of seeing the Verve Pipe, right? Because they hadn't signed yet. I saw them, every other weekend at
the time. I bet,
right? I mean, they were great. Don't get me wrong. And
For
then
sure.
something happened where bars didn't want to bring in bands like that, and they stopped with live music. They didn't want to pay people. And then when it came back, they only wanted cover bands. And I think what we're seeing is a revival in the singer-songwriters and the original artist, which is amazing. And you're right. There's everything from little small bars and clubs to bigger venues now that are embracing that and supporting that. And I think that's what it could take to really put Michigan on the map someday as a music hotspot, the way Seattle was for a while and the way Nashville is. I think the problem is it's hard to stand out in Nashville. First of all, everyone's going there. And from what I understand from some insiders there, you don't play by their rules. It doesn't matter how talented you are.
You're out.
You get blackballed. Yeah, they just don't blacklisted. Blacklisted or blackballed. So to me, you got a better chance of standing out here. First of all, if you're a talented songwriter, and we're seeing a lot of those, and that's why, like we love State on the Street. And I know like some of the festivals like Sounds of the Zoo, and you've got, at least here in Kalamazoo, you've got the Clover Room doing stuff, and you've got Up and Under is starting to do more things. And, I mean, even
we had to stop talking about festivals. There's so many. There's like over 100 during the summer in Michigan. It's it's awesome, but it's like bonkers. Like
it's almost getting to the point where it's
overwhelming.
Too many.
Every weekend there's a festival going on somewhere. When we and Jeff started looking them up, we were kind of listing off, hey, next week or next month, this is what you see. It's like we don't have a half an hour to read all these off. This is ridiculous. And some of them you can't pronounce because they're just made up words. Which is awesome,
interesting because most festivals fail the first year and you never see a second year out of them, right? So
it's like they're all thriving.
But it's a cool thing. But so we're trying to embrace, and support that. I mean, obviously, we're a business and we have to, sell tickets and stuff like that. But we feel a huge responsibility to the community. When you've been here since 1927 and the community has supported the theater for that long, it's important for us to give back to the community in a way of making sure we have shows for everyone. And it's not just Kalamazoo. I mean, we have people from Grand Rapids, Muskegon, Holland, Traverse City, Lansing. I mean, we draw from all over, so it's kind of cool. But so that's where Michigan Night kind of came from, what we're trying to do. So we haven't announced that yet. Right now, I think we're announced through June or July with shows.
So yeah.
Okay.
So
what do you got? What would you say coming up? So mid to late February on. What are some key shows that you got going on?
Well, really, March 1st, we've got the Silver Sun Pickups, which we are so excited to have them. Show is selling really well.
I gotta look that up.
Yeah.
I think I would go see them in Kalamazoo for sure.
I would act quick.
I love
that one's going to sell out. It's
okay.
Moving pretty. It's
Thank
moving
you for the heads
quick
up
on that one. So that's a pretty cool one. JJ Gray and Mofro, if you're into kind of that R&B bluesy kind of indie thing, is kind of cool. And then Jason Isbell in the 400 unit. We were just so geeked to get that show, and there's like 20 tickets left to that one.
Wow.
Yeah, that one. But man, he's such a great performer and songwriter. So that one's cool. And then a really cool one, because I saw the first band last year with Judas Priest. We've got Queensryche and Armored Saint.
Yeah. Oh, Queensryche is badass.
Yeah, and so they're headlining. So now they get to play their full set instead of just 45 minutes.
Right.
And Armored Saint, I've wanted to see for years. I saw John Bush when he was with Anthrax at like the intersection or something.
Heck yeah.
So those are some really, really cool ones. We have the comedian Joe Pera, if you know much about him. He's big with a little bit of the younger crowd, and he's kind of got he's got a certain character and act that he does. But it's another one of those big comedians that's coming in.
Yeah, and he's sounds like I'll look him up.
So trying to think what else. And then the Buddy Guy is going to be in August, and it's going to be one of his last shows. That one was a little bit of a he had some health issues. He was supposed to play that show last year in November, and he moved it to August. So that show was almost sold out, but now there are some tickets to that one. So that's going to be a big one, and it's going to be one of his last shows that he plays on this level. He's going to play his club probably here and there in Chicago.
I might have to get some tickets real quick, because I missed out on the November one last year, and which obviously didn't work out anyway. I want to see him if I can see him. I heard he's amazing live. Actually, I heard my brother went and saw him not too long ago, and he said, I was like, I'm gonna go to this show. Guy's gonna be sitting on a stool the whole time, not really energetic, but he gets up and moves around and he has a lot of energy for how old he is, which is awesome. And I'd love to see him. I saw the reason why I want to see him as well. So I went to his club in Chicago, and this is years ago, like 20 years ago, right? So we went to the club, and this was I was there for a sales conference or something like that, and a bunch just went over there, just hanging out. It was open mic night, so people are just some random different people up there. It was good blues. It was good stuff, right? Mm-hmm. But when we walked in the door, there just seemed to be this different type of character sitting at the bar. And by the end of the night, we were there that long. He gets up off the stool at the bar, gets up on stage, and it's Buddy Guy at his own place, and he plays. He played two songs with a couple of the bands that were there performing, and it was awesome. Like I was like, this you just can't make it up, right? It was really cool. But I'd like to see him like a full performance of what he can do.
Well, and I'll tell you in a minute one of the coolest things I ever saw with Buddy Guy. But he's actually when he was doing this tour, because it was the damn right it's my last tour kind of thing. Damn right I got the blues last tour. Yeah. He had at a lot of the stops, he had a lot of special guests coming up and joining him. Some big names. So. And they don't tell you that stuff a lot of times coming in, and you don't know till day of. And then the tour manager's like, hey, because like when we had Tommy Emmanuel, apparently Jake Kershaw connected with him, and we got word like, hey, he's going to bring Jake out to jam with them towards the end. And you want to talk about something cool. So Tommy Emmanuel and Jake throw down on stage. Maybe really? Throw my guitar away. Yeah. So, I tell people, I say no promises, but Buddy's been bringing some guests with him, so you never know who might show up.
Yeah.
But the coolest thing I ever saw, I went to the Crossroads Festival, Eric Clapton's festival in Chicago in 2010, and Buddy Guy came out and played with Johnny Lang and Ron Wood, and they did like 40
Johnny
minutes.
Lang, yeah.
And they were doing Stone songs, and they were doing blues classics, and they were doing Buddy's songs. And I mean, you want to talk about cool, that was cool.
Heck yeah.
Yeah.
That's sweet.
That's awesome. I thought you were going to say Bone Thugs and Harmony. The Crossroads tour. I was like, God,
there you go.
my wife is
That's funny. But yeah, as far as our lineup goes, I mean, unlike some of these other, like Meyer Gardens, they have a season. They announce it all at once. They make everything all at once. We are constantly booking.
Yeah,
so, I always tell people, follow us on social media or sign up for our email list, because we're always announcing. We've got like 3 announces coming up in the next 3 weeks, and we'll have more after that. We're just constantly booking and adding. One of the other really interesting things, despite being shut down during the pandemic and losing money, we put air conditioning in. That theater has never had air conditioning until 2021.
Whoa.
Yeah.
That's a big upgrade.
Well, and in the summer, it gets so hot in there, we couldn't have performances. So we were shut down for 3 months of the year.
Oh, I did not know that.
We're now year round, so we're now going to have, more shows in the summer and things like that. Yeah, when the theater opened in 1927, the air conditioning unit they used then was they had water pipes underneath with vents, and they would pipe cold water under, and the cold air would push up, and then cold air pushes the hot air, and it rotates. That was air conditioning back in the 20s and 30s.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
It was something. It was something. It was probably. It probably did seem like something.
Yeah.
Right.
So we're going to have more shows now moving forward every year, and we're constantly announcing. And you just never know what'll get added. So, which is cool. It's fun.
The best type of person to interview on a podcast like this is someone who really enjoys what they do. That's Harry. Like when you said you got your dream job, it's like, yeah, I can tell. Like, I feel like we could talk to you all night, just like swapping stories and like, oh, you heard this and that and the other thing and blah, blah, blah.
Right.
Well,
it's crazy.
I love my job, but I also love talking to people who love music and love theater. Like it's fun for me. I love sharing this.
Yeah.
I was telling them I do a lot of networking events and stuff. And at some jobs that I've had in the past, you show up at a networking event, you almost don't want to say where you work and what you do, because someone's going to complain about you. And I walk into a room and, either they see my name tag or they ask me what I do. And people are so excited and they want to know stuff. And it was so fun. I just love talking about it. And, part of that is the theater's a cool place. The history there is cool. The other part is, I love the people I work with. I mean, everyone on our team, we're a very small team, very passionate about what they do, love the industry, love what we do. It's a lot of fun. It's hard. I rarely wake up on Mondays and don't want to go to work, which is a weird thing.
That's a good feeling.
Very good.
Like I hope you're relishing that. I also like Mondays. I work in IT, and usually Monday's the worst day of the week. And at my company, it is the easiest day of the week because we do things so well. Yeah, but the guys that do the work, I just kind of do my thing. But yeah, they do such a good job that Mondays are literally like Fridays at other places.
But it's such a rare thing today, right? Like to work in a place that you want to work, not because you have to have a job.
Right.
And plus like getting to do stuff like this, like, when I met Jeff and talking to you guys, like that is such a cool part of my job, when, cause we met at Sounds of the Zoo and Jennifer asked me, she's like, I have too many shows going on. I need someone to help host, will you do it? Yeah. So I'm going there and hosting.
Ask us sometime. We want to start hosting stuff like that.
Exactly. And like, how much fun is that to say, I got to work tonight, but I'm hanging out at this show with Jake Kershaw. And I'm
going to talk in front of 1,500 people and announce Jake Kershaw. How cool is that?
Yeah. So I feel really lucky in that respect.
Good. That's awesome.
You're blessed.
Harry, thank you so much, man. This was awesome.
Thank you.
Where can people connect with Kalamazoo State Theatre?
So kazoostate.com is our website, KAZOO state.com. That And let me tell you, there's fake sites out there. So, there's you got to be really careful. Our theater is spelled with an R-E, not an E-R. So make sure you see that. Yeah. We are very active on our socials, Facebook, Instagram. We even have TikTok going. But you can sign up to our email newsletters, and we do not spam. We only put out the information with announces and things that are important. That's the easiest way to do it, or come down to the box office and get tickets. So hopefully, it sounds like you two are due for a visit. You guys are due for a visit.
We are.
So you guys need to let me know what show you'd like to go to.
We absolutely will. I was just gonna, after we get off this call, I'm like, okay, Jeff, let's pull up the calendar.
Buddy Guy's on my list.
Is he? Sure. I'll go with you. I'm sure there's gonna be more than that, but I want to go to. But I'll go to. I'll literally go to whatever. I don't care.
That one's the number one on my list.
Okay, I'll find my number one and we'll compare. Maybe we got to each go to each other's.
Yeah,
well, that's fair. So we'll go to 2.
You guys will have to come down. Maybe you can come down early. I can show you around.
Yeah. Oh, that would be freaking sweet.
Yeah.
That'd be so cool.
Yeah, it's cool to see the theater when it's not dark, like for a concert, right?
Mm-hmm.
Sure.
Yeah. So it's pretty cool. But yeah, I'd love to have you guys come down and hang out.
That'd be great.
Or if you ever are doing anything with a Kalamazoo artist, you could do your podcast from there.
Oh yeah,
we did. You up for that.
When we went to the east side of the state, we went to 20 Front Street and did some interviews there with the people that owned it and artists that had been there before. So it worked out perfectly well.
Yeah,
that's a great idea.
Yeah, we'll take you up on that.
We'd love to host you there.
We would totally make that happen.
Yeah. Cool.
Well, can we do it on the stage?
Yes.
Even if it's going to be dark and empty, that would be cool.
Yes. Well, I'll tell you, it looks really cool. Actually, we've shot a lot of videos and people do photo shoots where, we turn on our mezzanine lights and the candelabras and stuff on the side. So you get the colored lights. I don't know if you remember the ring around the mezzanine, but you've got the big orbs that are like red and blue. And it's a really cool backdrop. If you're on the stage with your back actually to the audience and shooting that direction, it's really sweet looking.
That's cool. I like those shots. I like that. We will let you know. I literally, after we hang up, we're going to be on your website looking at the calendar.
Very cool stuff. Very cool. Well, this was a blast. I love chatting with people like you and talking music, and I love what you guys are doing too. Propping up Michigan music. I love that.
Fair. Exactly, for sure. What better way to connect with other Michigan music people other people that like Michigan music, connect with the venues that you go to see them at.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
We've been to a radio station where you listen to it at. We've been to a recording studio where they're recording at. Now we're talking to venues where you can see them at.
Yeah.
Right. So good stuff.
Good stuff.
Thanks again, Harry.
Thanks, Harry. Thank you. Take care.
Have a good 2024.
You too.